so I'm losing excuses for all that I am. I'll live with the bruises to become a man. Not letting go of the hearts that were cold. Would you notice that I'm so broken inside? So let me face the world, I'll walk my own, travel far in open roads. Face the world, even if it is cold. I fall apart without any soul.
Hey guys, this is Park Plus Ultra here, and this is What If Deku Had Sonic Abilities Part 4. Let's do this! And I hope you like this video, and hope you subscribe. Suku and Amy were at the start of the door's entrance, and Suku thinks, how are we gonna get into this building? And Amy then says, we can go up on the window. And Suki then says, yeah, but we don't have any flight. And Amy says, never underestimate my power. And Suki says, what's your quirk? And Amy says, with a smirk on her face, and says, my power is called the Tarot Fortune Wheel. And Suki was confused on why she's smirking about that. And Amy then explains her quirk. Her quirk allows her to use a modified version of a tarot deck. She can make a hammer out of thin air and float with just a cards around her. And she can use some unique tricks with her tarot of quirk. And Suku was quite surprised on how versatile it is. But that's still not gonna help out on floating and flying aren't the same. Her quirk only allows her to float down, not fly off. And Amy then thinks, maybe we could break down that door. And Suki says, maybe we shouldn't go on the aggressive side? And Amy says, why? We don't want to make any noise, Ames. And Amy says, oh, what? They couldn't even hear. Plus, I bet the knucklehead is already arguing with Bakugo as we speak. They can't even hear it. And Suki then tries to make an argument. Well, it won't specifically. Then Suki slowly realizes that they are, as much as they are in a good team comp, knowing Bakugo, and knowing somewhat limited on the Knuckles guy's personality, Suki says, alright, you win on this one. Just don't make it very loud. And Amy says, don't worry, because as much as I'm quite bashful, I know my strength. And Amy summons her hammer, and it was a Pico look, and it was giant. And Suki then looks at it and sees Amy swing it and destroys the door. And Suki shudders on looking at the Pico hammer. And Amy says, there, all done. And Suki says this, remind me not to get hit by your hammer. And Amy says, noted, but if you anger me, you might get it. And Suki shudders on that. And Suki says this, I might get hit to the freaking nurse's office over 10 seconds if I get hit by that hammer. Ugh. And both Suki and Amy go and try to find the bomb. And while they were doing that, Bakugo and Knuckles, to chagrin on Suki, were actually arguing with each other. And both Bakugo says, I say we go after them. And Knuckles says, no way! If we let them in here, then nobody's going to be guarding the bomb. And both were having a heated argument with each other, trying to make a decision. I got an idea, Knuckles says, and Bakugo says, well, what's the big idea, Heisenberg? And Knuckles puts out a fist on what Bakugo said, infuriated on getting very pissed off look on him. But he says, why don't I protect the bomb and you go after them? And Bakugo says, alright, let's get going, Knuckles Sandwich, and do our job. And Knuckles says, Knuckles Sandwich? I'll make you into a sparkler after what you said. And Bakugo says, what was that? And then Bakugo goes after Suku and Amy. And Knuckles was protecting the weapon. Suku and Amy were looking around, trying to find the weapon. And Amy was behind Suku. And Amy was fanficking on how Suku and her would date or whatever. Whatever Amy does. This is literally how I imagine things going with Amy. And Suku, seeing her daydreaming, wondering what is she thinking about. Then again, I don't know. Just because. And looking at Amy with a look of concern but also confused on what she's thinking. And Amy says, oh, sorry, I was just daydreaming. And Suki says, looking at her with the look of, sure, it was. Then Amy says, let's hurry. And Suki says, yeah, right. And when Amy rushed before Suki thinks she's eager all of a sudden. Then Suki sneezes. And then realize that, Amy, watch out! And Bakugo comes out of nowhere. And Amy was surprised that Bakugo was right ahead of her. And when she was going to get hit, Suki grabs her arm and gets her out of the way, putting her in a dance position that is similar to how fiancés are, or date couples are. And Amy says, oh my, a little fast forward, huh? And Suki was confused on what she's doing, but also, I think we got to do something now, Amy. Bakugo seems pretty pissed. And Amy says, right, sorry about that. Giving a laugh, and Bakugo says, damn it, nerd! Is your seasoning fit really that annoying? Get a sneak attack. And Suki says, well, I figured danger was coming. And then Bakugo says, whatever, I'm gonna beat the living shit out of you. And then Suki says, we don't have time for this. And Amy says, I'll take care of him. And Suki says, are you sure? And Amy says, don't worry about me. I'm much stronger than I look. And Suki says, alright. And Suki then uses his super speed to get around Bakugo and try to get to the weapon. And Amy says, wow, he really is that fast. I guess he was holding back. And Bakugo scratches his head and says, it's so annoying. He's the fastest thing I ever seen. With you, it's much easier. And Amy says, oh, don't count your eggs before they're hatched, Mr. Kachan. And Bakugo says, shut it! Don't call me so friendly, you pink-haired loser. And Amy took that with a grain of salt and saying, oh, you're dead. And both fight. And Suki raced around looking for the place of the bomb and opening every door. Nope, 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 nope. And Suki was getting a little annoyed, but he's thinking to himself, I better do this quick. And then he found it on the 5th floor. And Suki says, bingo! And Suki says, now I gotta get to it. And when Zuku was walking towards it, Suki then felt a eerie feeling. And then he moved slightly out of the way. And then a punch appeared right in front of his face. And Suki realized that Knuckles has swung a punch that just narrowly made him avoid it. And Knuckles says, I was almost right near ya. Suki gets back from Knuckles' punch and was shocked on how Knuckles just punched with such speed that he couldn't barely react to it. And Knuckles says, surprise! I wasn't resting up for nothing, you know. I was increasing my speed with my punches. People don't know this, but I'm a boxer, and I punch things really hard. But also, I hit with more force than a human locomotive, so you better be careful. And Suki thinks to himself, jeez, he really likes to hear himself talk, doesn't he? But what he said wasn't a joke. He's that confident. Yeesh. Now I gotta take it a little serious with him. And Suki then says, alright, now you're gonna ask for like full speed. And Zuki charges up, making his speed increase. And Knuckles says, bring it on. My punches won't slow down even if you come at me at your full speed. And Suki smiles and says, we'll test that theory. Ready? And then Knuckles says, set! And then both say, go! And Suki and Knuckles were flying back and forth beyond their speed and calculations, increasing every time that they run or punch. Suki says, whoa, nice try, but you're still too. And then Knuckles says, what was that? And swings a punch. And Suki sees the punch and jumps over it over a mere second. And Suki says, dang, he's getting even faster. And Knuckles says, then grabs his leg. And Suki says, oh crap. And then Knuckles says, no, got you in one place. And Suki then thinks to himself, this is gonna hurt. And Knuckles punches Suki. And Suki says, getting flung back by Knuckles' punch and sending him flying. Gah! And Knuckles says, oh, we're not done yet. And he charges at Zuki and basically doing some pinballs on him. And Knuckles says, try a knuckle sandwich! And doing a trifecta punch. And Knuckles puts his finger and scratches it off, showing how confident he is. Not so confident now, aren't you? And Zuki says, ow, ow. Well, I'll give you this credit. You actually impressed me. Not many could keep pace my normal speed. And Knuckles says, you're normal? Huh, I highly doubt that's your normal pace. And Zuki says, please, I haven't even used any of my other tricks. And Knuckles says, well, we'll see about that. Let's see if I can knock it out of you. And then Zuki says, okay, round 2. And then Zuki and Knuckles look at each other and says, ready? Knuckles says, set. And then Zuki appears in front of Knuckles. And Knuckles was shocked. And Zuki says, go. And then Zuki swipes him out of his feet and doing another attack. Equal kick! And sending Knuckles flying. That kick, fast! And then Zuki appears behind him. Knuckles says, he's faster! And then Knuckles uses his punch, creating a combust. And Suku then kicks the same speed as Knuckles did with his punch. Knuckles was getting a little impressed on how Suki was keeping pace with his punch. And then Knuckles says, "Try this!" And Knuckles then stops and grabs the ground. And Suki says, "What is he doing now?" And then Knuckles lifts the floor. And Suki says, "You're kidding me!" And Knuckles says, "Hope you like ceiling!" And Suki says, "Seriously? Should that be a rule?" Then we get back to Amy and Bakugo. And Amy then puts her hammer down and says, "Man, you're tough. I wasn't expecting you to give me a hard fight." Looking at Bakugo with duct tape on his hands. And Bakugo says, "Damn, pink-haired girl, I'm gonna beat the living crap out of you." And Amy then says, "Man, if he gets tired by dealing with your antics, wonder if he's okay." Then hearing destructive sounds, and Amy then realized, "Wait, I forgot Knuckles!" And Amy then goes to see Suku and was worried about what Knuckles is going to do or what's going to happen to Suku. But when she got to the 5th floor, she sees Knuckles knocked out and Suku touching the weapon. And Suku says, with damage marks on his side, saying, "Looks like I made the race." And Amy says, "Suku, what happened?" And Suki says, "Oh, I think Knuckles just went almost all out on me. Oh, ow. Luckily I was fast enough to change his momentum. Ow!" And Amy was shocked to see that Knuckles made somewhat of the damage out of this. And Suki was somewhat injured but not fully crippled by that guy. And then Suki says, "Luckily my electrons could help me out on how much healing in my cellular level." And Amy was impressed that Suki, but man, that hurt. And Suki and Amy then hear, "Oh my, the hero team wins!" And they go back and Momo explains on what happened and who was the MVP. And it was a mixed bagging because of how the people were pretty much split on end on who was making damage and taking a little risk on it. But the MVP goes to Suku, who was actually thinking things through on what would happen on the door and focusing and capturing the weapon and making sure his teammate is safe. And Suku and all the others were doing the same thing as usual. Suku checks out his little buddy on his workshop, and Tails was honestly having a good time working on his tools and making inventions, and might have gotten a little crush on Mei Hatsume. And the next day, Suku and all the others were eating in the lunchroom, and when he sits down, Amy, Achako, and Ida were having a friendly talk and having a great time. And Suki says, "I was waiting on my little pal, Tails, until you guys showed." And Achako says, "Who's Tails?" And Amy says, "Oh, he's the guy that helped me on the equipment. He's the same one that made my gears for my hero costume." And Achako says, "Wow, those the same ones that were made? He sounds such a good engineer." And Suki says, "Well, my little buddy made a plane with his pretty high IQ." And Chaka says, really? What IQ does he have? And Ida says, it's probably somewhere to 200, maybe. And then Suki says, well, 298. All three of them were shocked to hear that his IQ is pretty high. And Suki says, yeah, I was shocked as well when hearing that. But he's my little buddy. And then Tails says, hey, what are you guys talking about? And Suki says, hey Tails, we were talking about your IQ a bit. And Tails says, what? You made the joke about that or something? And Suki says, no, it was more out of equipment, but it was, then we get to it, IQ, and yeah. And Tails says, wow, talk about having a overboard. So, anything special? And Amy says, well, it was shocking to hear that. And Ochako says, yeah, I wasn't expecting to see a super genius. And Ida was also amazed. It is a great to hear that you have that high of a IQ. Tails says, thanks. It's just, I never got a very good rep back then when I was a kid. And all three of them were shocked to hear what they heard. And Suki then realized, right, I forgot about that. Maybe I should tell them about the backstory later. And all three of them were confused but also interested on what he means by that. And then the villain alarm comes out and all the students were panicking. And Sugu and all of his friends tried to calm them down and saying it's just the paparazzi and it's nothing to be feared and everything goes as the same as in canon. But yeah, Suki was walking with his friend Tails, and Suki says, so Tails, how was meeting my friends? And Tails says, well, it was very interesting to meet them. So yeah, and Suki was noticing Tails' behavior a bit. Hey, what's the matter, pal? And Tails says, oh, I'm just not feeling it a bit. And Suki says, did you got a bully? And Tails says, no, I promise you on that. I will, there's no bully. And Suki says, but what's the matter? And Tails says, well, it's mostly because of how different it is. We never been that far, or you never gone that far without me that much. We were like brothers, come on. And Zuki then says, calm down, Tails. I'm just having a hard time on you. But relax, you're still my number one bud. And Tails says, thanks, Zuki. And they got back home and they slept. But when they slept, Suki was sleeping and having a dream. And Suki feeling a dark aura around. Suki was feeling a uneasy feeling. Anger, hatred, and resentment. And Suki then says, huh? Then when he was in the dream, he sees a dark figure in front of him. And Suki says, whoa, who the heck are you? And the dark figure goes towards Suki, walking slowly towards him, and puts his hand near him. And Suki was shocked to see this thing he'd never seen before. And Suki reached out with his hand and touched, and then the dark aura around him swells around and goes into Suki. Huh? Whoa! What the? And Suki felt negative energy, electrons around his body. And then he hears, someday you will face your inner demons. And Suki says, huh? What? And then he wakes up out of the dream, What the? And Tails says, what's the matter, Zuko? And Zuko then smiles and says, oh, nothing, buddy. I just had a little nightmare. And Tails says, is it that dream of underwater? You have to have stopped that hydrophobia, you know. And Zuko says, it's not water, but don't make that joke, please. And Tails says, alright, I'm going to sleep. And Zuko says, alright. Then Zuko thinks about that. What does it mean by facing demons? Then Zuko goes back to bed, sleeps. And that's where I'm ending this video. I'm hoping you like this video and hope you subscribe.